Every single morning, millions of students across the country stand in silence, listening to the news that's supposed to shape their day. But what if one morning, just one, an announcement carried a story so powerful it completely changed how an entire school saw the world? Imagine this: a single headline, a quiet assembly hall, and a lesson no textbook could ever teach. This is a story about how ordinary school news became an unforgettable moment, and why sometimes the smallest announcements truly leave the biggest impact. It was a completely typical morning at a public school right here in the United States. Students were lined up, all neat in their uniforms, the familiar sound of footsteps echoing across the assembly hall. You know the scene. Teachers stood along the sides, making sure everyone was in order as the school day officially began. The assembly followed its usual, predictable routine. There was a pledge, a short message about discipline, and then came the morning news. National updates, global events, and the latest sports highlights, all read in a calm, steady voice over the microphone. At first, you could tell no one was really paying attention. It was just background noise, the start of another long day. But as the announcements continued, something in the tone started to shift. The news began to speak about real challenges facing the country, about communities pulling together after hardship, and, most importantly, about young people just like them, making a difference in ways nobody expected. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't loud or sensationalized. It was just real, and that's what made it powerful. Suddenly, students who were usually whispering or staring at the clock started to listen. They were actually listening. The announcer shared stories of incredible resilient students helping their classmates, schools stepping up to support families in need, and small, simple acts of kindness spreading like ripples across entire cities and towns. For a brief, almost magical moment, the entire room felt different. It became quieter, more focused. The teachers noticed it too. They saw the change in the students' faces. This wasn't just information being broadcast anymore. It was perspective. It was a window into the world beyond their school gates, a world where they could be active participants, not just spectators. The assembly ended just like any other. The final bell rang, and students were dismissed to their classrooms. But something had fundamentally changed. The conversations that day were different. Instead of the usual complaints about homework or upcoming exams, students were talking about the stories they had just heard. They were talking about responsibility. They were talking about awareness and what it means to be part of something much, much larger than themselves. That single morning news announcement didn't go viral online. It didn't make headlines on major news networks across the country, but inside the walls of that school, it mattered. It mattered deeply, because it proves that sometimes the most powerful and transformative stories aren't the ones shouted from the rooftops for the whole world to hear. They're the ones quietly heard at the start of an ordinary day, the ones that plant a seed of thought and inspiration. And long after the final bell rang and the school day ended, that message, that feeling of connection and purpose, stayed with them. It became a part of their story. This event makes you wonder, doesn't it? What if every school assembly started this way? What if we intentionally shared stories that didn't just inform, but also inspired? Think about the impact. We spend so much time teaching facts and figures, but what about empathy? What about resilience and civic duty? These are the lessons that build character, the lessons that last a lifetime. The story from that school wasn't a fluke. It was a demonstration of a powerful truth. Young people are not just passive recipients of information. They are hungry for meaning, for connection, and for a sense of purpose. When we give them stories that reflect the best of humanity, they listen, they absorb it, and they carry it forward. That morning, the news wasn't about distant wars or complex politics. It was about people. It was about us. It showed them that heroism isn't just for superheroes in movies. It's found in the everyday actions of ordinary people. It's the student who shares their lunch, the teacher who stays late to help, the community that rallies around a family in crisis. These are the stories that build a stronger, more compassionate society, one school assembly at a time. It's a powerful reminder that we all have a role to play in shaping the narrative. The media we consume, the stories we choose to tell, and the messages we share with the next generation have a profound impact. The teachers at that school saw a tangible shift. In the days and weeks that followed, they noticed more students getting involved in school clubs focused on community service. They overheard more conversations about current events, not with apathy, but with a genuine desire to understand. It was as if a light had been switched on. The students realized that the world's problems and its triumphs were also their own. They weren't just kids in a classroom, they were citizens of a complex and interconnected world. And that realization is the first step towards creating real, lasting change. It all started with a simple morning announcement that dared to be different. This story should serve as an inspiration for educators, for parents, for all of us. Let's rethink how we communicate with young people. Let's challenge the idea that they only care about trivial things. Let's give them stories that matter, stories of hope, of courage, and of kindness. Because when we do, we're not just filling the silence of a morning assembly. We are planting the seeds of a better future. We are empowering a generation to see the world not just for what it is, but for what it could be. And that is a lesson far more valuable than anything that can be graded on a test. The world is full of noise, but every now and then, a quiet voice can change everything. That ordinary morning in that ordinary school proved it. Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more content that inspires and makes you think. What are your thoughts on this? Have you ever had a similar experience? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories. Stay curious, stay engaged, and we'll see you in the next one.